Midjourney version 5 is officially live, and the excitement was so huge that we broke it within a matter of 20 minutes. But don't worry, it's back online now and ready to receive all your prompts. A lot has changed in version 5, and the true extent of it all will only become clear within the next couple of days and weeks. So let's have a closer look at the key differences and what that means for you. Version 5 is a big step forward in terms of image resolution. While in previous versions the default dimensions were 512 by 512 pixels and higher resolutions required additional upscaling, in version 5 the default dimensions are 1024 by 1024 pixels. Let's do a quick comparison using the following prompt. Imagine nature photography, macro shot of jungle flora and fauna, extremely detailed natural light, an aspect ratio of 16:9, and we'll be switching between versions 4 and 5. Here's what we get in version 4. And now let's compare that to version 5. I know some of you might be arguing that the difference is barely noticeable, but trust me, it is there. And the full-size images are much bigger. Unfortunately, this also means that version 5 requires more GPU time and your generations are generally going to take longer. The upside to this is that your upscales will basically be instantaneous simply because the images are already at a higher resolution anyway. Now you probably noticed something else in these two images. One of them is far more realistic than the other, right? Yep, well that's version 5. One of the most obvious changes in version 5 is the level of realism. The Midjourney team calls this unopinionated, which basically just means that version 5 is less artistic straight out of the box. The current alpha of Midjourney version 5 is essentially still in a pro mode. This basically means that prompting may be a little bit more difficult in version 5, and achieving the same results may or may not require slightly longer prompts. To give you an idea of what this looks like, let's have a look at the following prompt. Imagine image of a yellow dress for woman with very thin and detailed floral ornaments in green color. So here's what you get in version 4. Now these are nice concepts, but have a look at what the version 5 images look like. I'm pretty sure these images speak for themselves. The realism is even more obvious if you describe a real-life scene. Imagine street photography, an attractive old French lady in her 70s wearing a blouse and blazer walking through the Jardin des Tuileries on a bright Sunday morning. Now the version 4 images already look pretty neat. But in terms of pure realism, version 5 blows version 4 completely out of the water. I literally cannot tell whether this is stock photography or not. More realism and less opinionated results also means that you will most likely have far more control over the final image. So how exactly do you measure control? Well, here's an example. I'm going to try to create a close-up portrait of a woman that has heterochromia. Heterochromia is essentially when a person has two different colors of irises in their eyes. Here's the prompt I used. Imagine close-up shot of a beautiful woman with eyes in different colors. Left eye has a green iris, right eye has a blue iris, aspect ratio of 16:9, and version 4 and version 5. As you can see in the version 4 images, Midjourney doesn't really understand what I wanted to do. It's showing us these split images, but it's not the same person. Version 5 is much better at doing this and is able to produce images of the exact same person that actually has heterochromia. Let's have a look at another example. Imagine wide-angle shot of two young people standing in a garden, a pretty girl with blonde hair standing far away at a distance, red-haired boy with blue clothes standing close to the camera. In the version 4 images, you can see that Midjourney is struggling a little bit with the positioning of the characters, and they don't really look like they're positioned in a very natural way. The version 5 images, on the other hand, are much better at getting all of the details right, and they also understand that we want them to be positioned in natural ways. Now, unfortunately, color bleed and attributing the right features to the correct person is still something that Midjourney struggles with. However, this is a big step forward. So far, all of our images have looked very realistic. So you might be wondering what happened to all of those beautiful styles that we enjoyed. Well, don't worry, they're still there. Version 5 of Midjourney is absolutely capable of producing beautiful digital artwork, just like version 4. In fact, it's shocking just how good and how detailed the images are. Here's a sample prompt. Imagine digital art painting wide-angle shot of lush green valley in an eco-dystopian future, bustling city at the bottom of the valley with organically shaped architecture and natural materials, golden hour sunlight. Now, version 4 will produce the opinionated and aesthetically pleasing images that we are used to. But version 5 takes the level of detail and realism to an entirely new level. I know some of you may prefer version 4 images simply because they have that very specific aesthetic. But let me quickly show you what happens when you set the stylize parameter to 1000. Imagine, and then we repeat the entire prompt. The only thing I've done here is I've added stylize with a value of 1000. This is absolutely mind-blowing if you pay attention to the intricate details that version 5 has added. Here's another example that's a little bit simpler. Imagine a fox and a panda bear fighting each other, Muay Thai kickboxing, Pixar animation style. Version 4 was always really good at creating aesthetically pleasing images. However, it was not always great at giving you what you actually asked for. In this particular example, you can clearly see that it does not reflect the typical Pixar animation style. But version 5 does this with ease, and the characters look like they were taken exactly and straight from a Pixar movie. You can even take things a little further and increase the quality parameter. That's right, quality is back. Now, version 5 already comes with a very high level of quality to begin with. I mean, just check out this simple prompt. Imagine portrait photography close-up portrait of a futuristic soldier wearing a helmet with a visor made of orange-tinted glass, sunlight piercing the visor. Now, the version 4 images of this prompt were already mind-blowing enough. But check out what version 5 can do. You might find the version 4 images more aesthetically pleasing, but just look at these images, just look at the realism. It's absolutely insane. Have a look at the details on this. And what do you think will happen if I increase the quality parameter to 2? Imagine, and then we repeat the prompt, and the only thing I've added is Q2 at the end. The level of detail in version 5 surpasses anything we've ever seen before. Here's a close-up of one of them. But let's try this on something more basic. Imagine single gaming icon design, magic potion flask, and we add the stylize parameter with a value of 500, as well as the quality parameter with a value of 2. Version 4 gives us a set of images of potions that look absolutely stunning, but I'd argue that they're a bit too polished for actual use in a video game. But with version 5, we get these here straight out of the box. The style you see here is much more in line with the typical style that you would see in a video game. Speaking of parameters, what else has changed? Midjourney version 5 has all but removed all limits on aspect ratios. You can literally cook up anything you like. Just check out this prompt. Imagine the world's tallest imaginary tree in the style of a fantasy graphic novel, aspect ratio of 1:5, which is very tall. Sure, now you might be wondering, why would you even want to create an image like that? But trust me, the extra control will open up so many new use cases. That's right, image weight is back as well. This means that you can now control exactly how much influence your image reference should have on the overall prompt. Here's an example. Imagine, and then we start off with an image prompt, followed by the Lord of War. And then we also add the image weight parameter, and we're going to switch between 3 different values. The image reference is from an example that I showed you earlier, the one with the visor. Here's what the image looks like if we use an image weight of 0.5. Now a weight of 1, which is essentially the default. And finally, a weight of 2. The differences are quite obvious, and it looks like subtle changes will actually have quite significant impact. One last thing that I would like to touch upon is the return of the tile parameter. The tile parameter allows you to create seamless patterns and textures. This was a very popular feature in version 3 of Midjourney, and it is particularly useful for certain use cases such as print on demand and the gaming industry. It's relevant for the gaming industry because they need all sorts of different textures in order to skin their different models in the game. Unfortunately, version 4 never got this feature, but version 5 has it. Here's a very basic example. Imagine a pattern of assorted tropical fruits, and then we simply add the tile parameter at the very end. Here's what you used to get from version 3 of Midjourney. And now check out the version 5 example. Yes, these patterns are 100% seamless. And I'm pretty sure you can do a whole lot more of crazy stuff if you just experiment a little bit with it. Here's another example that's more impactful for the gaming industry. Imagine aerial shot of cobblestone road, texture, and then once again, we add the tile parameter. Here's what version 3 produces. It's not as useful simply because it doesn't actually give us an aerial shot of this texture. You would first have to distort the image in an image editor in order to be able to use it. But the version 5 images are much, much better. Not only are they more realistic, but they've also got the right angle and everything you need. So as you can see, version 5 of Midjourney is a massive step forward. While it is currently still in pro mode, and prompting might feel a little bit more difficult than you're used to, Midjourney has stated that they are working on an opinionated version that will be more comparable to what you're used to from version 4. This will most likely become the new default styling once it is finalized. However, if you want to continue working in pro mode, don't worry, you'll be able to turn it off at any time. So does this mean that all of my previous Midjourney videos are now suddenly obsolete? No, absolutely not. Will you have to adjust what you've learned with every single new version of Midjourney? Possibly. But really, your knowledge doesn't get lost, it just expands. So make sure you brush up on your Midjourney prompting skills and check out any of these recommended videos. Even if they were all created with version 4 in mind, most of the logic still applies to version 5. So keep on learning and take care.